welcome Facebook Live, everybody joining us, and thank you very much. We have a very special edition tonight, and we have Frank of MRC. How you doing, Frank?
Very well, and yourself, Ken?
All right, and it seems we dragged Frank out of retirement, and he liked the camera so much, we are doing another episode.
I'm not going to say I like the camera that much, but I do like to talk about model railroading. So this is a great opportunity. And I do thank you, Ken, for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about MRC. But tonight I'm also going to try to explain why I think DCC is probably the best way to go for most guys out there. So whenever you're ready, I can roll.
Yeah, that's great. And let's just go over the topics for tonight that Frank's going to kind of like hit over. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. So we're going to talk DC versus DCC, just really the basics, you know, getting into it, which is great, fun to know facts, whether you're already in DCC or just looking to get into it. Then Frank's going to talk about the advantages of DCC, which is good to know. The Tech 6, which is a great control system, and you're able to use DC and DCC. He'll get more into that. We actually use it on all of our Tech stations, well, Tech 6 stations, but just to test HO or N-scale trains. Then he'll go over the Prodigy Advanced 2, the Wi-Fi cell phone app, and then in closing, we also have a special little raffling off of a item. So stay tuned, continue joining us, and we'll kick it over to Frank.
Okay, thanks, Ken. And again, thanks for the opportunity to allow me to talk to everybody out there tonight.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do basically is try to convince you guys that I think whether you're a railroader and you've been around a long time and you've been using DC power, or you're a beginner, I want to explain why I think for most people out there, DCC is the way to go. As you know, not all of us are tech savvy, but today's DCC systems are very simple to operate. And actually, in many cases, the wiring is easier using DCC. And of course, there's many advantages to DCC, which I'm going to kind of go over some of the main advantages tonight with you. But let's just talk about the difference between a DC and a DCC system. For years, MRC has made DC power packs at probably 75 years. And in that process, I've learned a lot. And basically all we did was take 120 volts coming out of the wall outlet, which is AC, convert it to DC using a rectifier, and then what we have a DC system, a DC power pack, DC coming out, we were able to use a potentiometer to adjust the speeds, and the speeds are controlling basically the voltage. The higher the voltage, the faster the locomotive goes. A switch for direction was just changing the polarity, so the train would go in the other direction. Pretty simple, but it worked, and it worked for many, many years. Today, I'll go into a little bit about why DCC or how it operates. A DCC system is actually putting a constant voltage on the track at all the time. So that we have to now figure out how we're going to get that speed adjusted and how we can run multiple trains. Well, along with that constant voltage, we are putting out packets of information. Every couple of thousandths of a second, milliseconds, we are sending out packets of information. Now, there's many packets going along on this rail, this train rail, but each packet has a number, an address number. So when we have a decoder DCC equipped loco, each decoder in that locomotive, each locomotive with a decoder has an address. And we'll talk about addresses a little bit later, but each one has an address. And as the information is going down the rail, the only information that that locomotive will see through that decoder is the packet of information with that particular address. So I have a locomotive that's 1, 2, 3, 4. The only information that decoder is going to take is the packet of information that says 1, 2, 3, 4. No different than the mailman walking down your street and delivering mail to your house and then going to the next house and delivering mail to that house. Each one has a different address, and that's how he delivers the mail. That's how your DCC system works.
Gotcha.
Pretty simple. But the neat thing is, with that information, we can package it with a lot of data. And that data is allowing us to do all kinds of nice things like lights, running different locomotives, different sounds we have now. So all these information, including things like accessories that we can operate now through the DCC rails. So that's how DCC operates. Most of the technology is the same technology each company uses. We use the same technology. The difference varies a little bit in terms of how we set up our protocols, but they all work on the same basic principle. And the original designer, Mr. Lenz, actually came up with the concept, was able to, or was nice enough to turn it over to all the manufacturers to use that same technology. So that's how we make the DCC systems work. Now, what makes DCC so advantageous that I'm here talking to you guys? Number one, and most of you probably know this, you'll be able to run the new DCC equipped locos or DCC ready locos and get the sounds out of them. And that's a multitude of sounds. It's not just a horn and a bell, but it's many, many sounds and many other little features that are also included in some of the locomotives, such as having additional lighting features. Could be one advantage. So there's many advantages with the DCC systems with the new locomotives today. Operating more than one loco at the same time. Now, if I'm a guy working all by myself in my house, I may not want to have a bunch of locomotives running, but I may want a locomotive on a siding or on a different track, and having it sit there, I can be able to turn the lights on. I might want to move it very slowly in a yard. In the meantime, I still have my mainline train going down the track. So I can switch back and forth as I wish. Another nice thing, if I have some guys over and I want to let them play with me in the basement with my trains, I can do that by buying additional handhelds or maybe using a cell phone, which I'll discuss later, to control trains with another friend or friends at the same time. Nice thing to do is, like, if I have a bigger layout, I can run the locomotive down the line and turn it over to somebody else to continue running it while I might be doing some other yard work or building another train to put on the rails. So we can do all those kind of nice things using DCC. For guys with a mid-size layout or smaller layouts, DCC is much easier to wire. 2 wires to the track and you're basically done. It's much simpler. Plus, my whole layout is under my control and is powered under the DCC system. So I can access everything. If you're using a DC power pack, some of you guys know this, you can have blocks and you have to use different power packs, or maybe one pack, but have switches for blocks. DCC, you don't really need to do that. Another nice thing is I can do consisting. Consisting, combining 2 locomotives together, lashing them is another word, putting them together so that they can pull a heavier load, just like real locomotives do. So if I want to do that, I can do it. But a lot of times, different manufacturers, even the same manufacturer, 2 different model locomotives, the start voltage may not be the same. The top end voltage may not be the same. So there's going to be a pulling and dragging if I'm not right, if I don't have it right. With DCC, I can set it up so that the start voltages can be adjusted, top end voltages can be adjusted, so that the locomotives will pull together in tandem and work together to pull a heavier load. Pretty neat thing. Also with DCC, I can have it so it's prototypical where the front light is on and the other lights on the other locomotives behind, lights can be off. So I can have all that set up in the DCC system. As I said before, I can throw a switch. I can turn on lights in a building. I can do street lights. I can also do some routing. If I have a siding and I want to get to it, I may have to get through a series of 2 or 3 or 4 switches or multiple switches to get to that siding. I can build a route so that each switch is tied into a route. So in my DCC system, I build a route, number it, and when I want to, hit that route number, and guess what? All those switches switch at the same time, so my train can go right down the line and get to that siding without having to throw multiple switches, or in the old days, using toggles to get the switches thrown.
Yeah, I mean, Frank, this adds so much to running trains. I mean, it's a whole different dimension from just the standard controller.
It is.
And, you know, toggling switches if you have to. But, you know, with a remote control, the DCC system, it makes things easier, a lot more intricate and, you know, detailed, and map everything out. It's pretty wild.
It's much more prototypical than what we had 25 years ago. So, and there's many more, there's a couple of more advantages, Ken, I'm going to tell you about. Another one that I really like is a reverse loop. A reverse loop is a single track going down straight away, going down on your main line. Now, the locomotive, you want it to come back on that same line. So what you do is you have like a circle, kind of like a U-turn in a car.
Right.
Able to come around and come back on. Well, if you use DC, you got a short circuit if you do that. As you come back on, the poles are reversed, polarity is reversed, you'll have a short. So you can't do it. You can do it, but you've got to use a lot of switches and toggles to get there. With DCC, you can buy a DCC Reverse Module little device. You can connect it up, and each brand, like Digitrax or MRC or NCE, all have their little reverse loop modules. You buy them, and you put basically 4 wires, 2 to the loop and to the main line. And guess what? The train goes down the track, gets to that loop, comes around, it goes back the other way. No switches, no muss, no fuss. It's done. Nice little device, and it can be done very easily with DCC. So there's a lot of advantages, and as we go through, I'm going to talk about a couple of units tonight. And in talking about those units, I think you'll see there's a few more things that I'll be talking about that make explain why I think that for most guys out there, DCC is the way to go. Now, the first unit I'm going to talk about is the Tech 6.
Yeah.
And excuse me, guys, I got to reach back to get everything. I'm the producer and the director and everything else together tonight. So this is the Tech 6. What I like about this unit, I really recommend this to guys that I do a lot of trade shows and I talk to a lot of people over the years. And one of the big hesitations to DCC is I got a whole load of DC locomotives. I can't afford to put decoders in them all. I don't want to lose all those locomotives. Or I have, you know, I don't know how to technology to put the decoders in there. Well, a lot of the new ones are not that bad to put in decoders, but if you have some really old locomotives, it is tough.
Yeah.
With the Tech 6, I'm going to explain how this operates, and I think this is a great solution for a lot of guys. Now, it doesn't have all the features that a full-fledged DCC system has, but it has, I'd say, about 90% of them. So let's listen, and I'll go through what we can do. When you buy a you buy a Tech 6, you're going to get a power supply, and you're going to get the unit. Now, it's really so simple to connect this unit up. I plug this into the wall. I plug this little connector into my side jack right here. And I've got a little jack here that goes to the track. So 2 wires to the track from here, and I'm done. That's my wiring to get myself set up. Now, I want to run a DC locomotive. So before I put the locomotive on the track, there's a little mode button right here. I'm going to press that button, and you're going to see a little greenish yellow light come on. When you're in that mode, that's DC, and it's putting a DC signal on the rail, or DCC voltage on the rail. So as I turn my dial, just like I ran in my power pack, I'm running the train. I want to change direction, I have a direction control. Another neat thing, acceleration rates and deceleration rates can be adjusted on this unit. So if I have a heavy load and I turn my dial up and I want the locomotive to get there slowly because I got this heavy load I'm dragging, I can adjust the momentum, the acceleration rate, so it takes a lot longer to get to the top speed, just like a prototypical locomotive. The same thing for deceleration. I can set the deceleration rate, so as the locomotive is slowing down, if I move the throttle back down, the locomotive will take some time to slow down, and it's adjustable. By the way, when I'm on DCC, you can do that as well. So now I've got the DC running, locomotive running. I can take that off the track and I can put on a DCC locomotive. But before I do that, I'm going to go back to that mode button and press it one time. And guess what? The little red light's coming on. When that little red light's coming on, now I'm on DCC. And I can run a locomotive by just putting it on. And I'm going to assume it's a brand new locomotive. And I turn my dial. And guess what? I'm running that locomotive. And I have, if I press 0, I'm going to turn the lights on or off, depending upon whether they were on or off beforehand. Again, I have my direction control. And now here's where it gets cool. 1 is going to be a bell. I press the button once and the bell's on and it stays on. That's a DCC, no matter what brand DCC system you get, they all work that way. And then 2, the longer I hold the button, that's my horn or my whistle. The longer I hold the button, the longer that sound comes out. So for short blasts, I push it a couple of times. For a long blast, I hold it down. All DCC systems and decoders are set up so bell and horn are 1 and 2. After that, when you get to 3 and beyond, and now most new locomotives have about 28 functions that are accessible. They may not be all sound. Some might be some additional lighting. Some might be some adjustments, but there are 28 different functions. Today's DC systems, including this Tech 6, will be able to get all 28 functions. In this particular case, we have a shift button. When you hit the shift button, 1, 1, guess what? It's 11, and so on. So I can build up to all 28 functions and have all those accessories in my locomotive operating using my Tech 6.
Yeah, Frank, just to chime in here. So we do a very large retail business, and a lot of the customers that come in during Christmas time, they see trains with sounds, they want to operate them, they want the bell, the horn, they want the sound features, because that's really an awesome part of running trains when you're just getting started out.
Right.
And we always recommend your unit, and every single salesperson knows, because we operate that unit itself as well. It's just so simple to use. Sometimes we have people who never played with trains before, and all they need to know is that one mode button, click, click, and you can operate standard DC or DCC trains, and you're really, rolling. So it's a great, simple unit. We sell hundreds and thousands of these units. It's one of the best, I guess, units you guys and the whole industry actually created, because I don't think there's actually another company on the market that sells a similar unit that's just so
not that I know of,
and simple for the basic hobbyist. So you guys really hit a home run where you're trying to get the basic people who are running standard DC or just want to get into running an engine that has sounds, and you're getting those kinds of new people into the hobby. So it's a great thing.
Right. And by the way, I checked out your prices on Trainworld. This is only about $100 on your site. Yep. So it's a very reasonable unit through Trainworld. So as I was saying, we can run one locomotive standard or one DCC, not both together, but one or the other. However, we do have, by the way, this also has 2 amps of power. It's a pretty powerful little unit. Yeah. So I can run multiple trains, and I'm going to get to how I can run multiple trains. Well, MRC came out with a a handheld or cab for the unit. And again, it's very simple. All I'm going to do is plug in a jack here to the jack here, and my handheld's operating. Now, my handheld is backlit, and so I can use it in the nighttime and still see all my numbers. And with the handheld, I'll be able to run up to 6 DCC ready or DCC equipped locomotives at one time. So it's going to give me more advantages.
Wow.
So I can operate multiple trains, just like I was saying before, some of the advantages of DCC. Not 40, but I can run 6. And I can program on here. I can do 28 functions on here. And the programming on this is so simple. To program a locomotive used to be very complicated. In this particular unit, we made it simple, stupid. Okay, and it goes for me perfectly. I hit if I want to change a locomotive from all addresses on locomotives when they come from the factory are 3. That's an industry standard. So if I have 2 locomotives, they're both going to be on 3 if I haven't done anything to them. So I need to get one of those locomotives to a different number because, as I said before, the signal's going down the rails. You got to be able to talk to those other, get the addresses from those packets of information. So in this case, I want to program and I want to make this locomotive, the Saturn locomotive number 2. So all I'm going to do is hit locomotive, program.
Can you raise that up, Frank, and do that?
Oh, sorry, guys. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to hit a P button for program right over here. Okay. And I'm going to hit, let's say 2, and I'm done. The locomotive is now running on address 2. It was pretty simple.
Now, just for reference, you have to leave the one engine on the track with the other one off the track.
Off the track in this particular case on this particular system.
Gotcha.
Because when you're designing a system, you're always, how complicated do I want to make it? And I'm always thinking, in this case, I wanted to make this as simple as pie for anybody to operate. So a push of a button and another button and you're done. It made it pretty simple. And by the way, if you did get into some kind of trouble, all MRC DCC systems, including the Tech 6, all the instructions are printed on the back. Now, for a guy like me, that's really handy because I'm the first guy to lose my instructions and I got some appliance or my TV and I don't know how to do something. Here, all the instructions are there, so I can't lose it.
And that's one of the funny things about some of the other systems out there. People always come in and want to know how to use it, and they lost the instruction booklet or haven't read it, but you have it right on the back, which makes it so simple. You really took and thought about all the necessities for someone who's starting out, and even for the advanced people who want those advanced features, but at a easier, simpler, cleaner way.
Right. When we wrote our instructions from our first DC system to today, all of our instructions we tried to go away from engineer lingo and keep it so it's in layman terms. Our instruction books are much thinner than the other guys because we've taken a lot of the things that were complex and made them a little easier using our DCC systems. And I'll go into more of that with our Prodigy system, which is a full-fledged, full-featured DCC system, but we tried to keep it simple.
And Frank, Mike actually had a good question. That handheld can be used for N-scale as well with the MRC Tech 6. And Mike, thanks for letting us know. We actually have to update the handheld unit to list it under N-scale. So we appreciate you finding that.
Thanks, Mike.
And yeah, so a great unit for N-scale, HO, even ON30, trying to get standard DC, DCC. In all of our YouTube videos, I would say 85% of the HO N-scale engines that we run are on your system. So
thank you. Thank you.
That's getting the sounds, the different bells, whistles, horns. So it's a great unit. We use it here at Trainworld ourselves. So can it be used on G scale or will it not be?
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't have the. First of all, G scale is a little bit higher voltage. Now you can use you could use it on a smaller G scale locomotive, but I really am not going to tell you guys it's the right thing to do.
That's fine.
By the way, back to the cab.
Yeah.
I like cabs. I like the ability because of the mobility. And all the companies out there, whether it's the other brands or MRC, make extension plates. You can put these extension plates around your layout. And what's really neat, with one cab, I can have it plugged in by my console. But if I want to get to the other end of the layout, I can unplug the cab, walk over to the other part of the layout, and then plug in over there. And in doing so, the whole time I'm unplugged, I don't lose anything. The locomotive, the cabs have memory, so that when I'm moving, whatever's being done on that locomotive, wherever that locomotive is going, it's going to continue to go, and it's going to continue to go at the speed I had it set last. When I get to the next jack and I plug into the cab, and now I'm in a different area in the layout, everything will continue to run the way it was set until I move a dial, and then the cab's back in action. So it's a nice feature because with the cabs, I can move around the layout. And most DC, not all, but most of the DCC systems today come with cabs that are give you the ability to walk around.
Right.
So we've kind of finished up on the Tech 6, and I'm going to move on to another DCC system, and that's our Prodigy Advanced Squared system. The Prodigy Advanced Squared is a 3.5 amp unit, and it comes with 3 components: the console, a power supply, which I can't reach over to get it, but it's similar in power supply to what I showed you before. I love this console. What I like about the console, it's got a lot of little neat features on it. Number one, I've got a power switch. A lot of units today don't come with a power switch. This gives me the ability to turn it off. Now, if you don't have a power switch on your system, you can use a little extension plate with a switch on it to turn off your power. But I like the idea of having a power switch. I also have jacks here for 3 more handhelds, so I can put in 3 handhelds. There's one other jack here is for factory upgrades or software ability to adjust the software. So if you have a unit and you have an older MRC Prodigy system, Prodigy Advanced, and you want to get it upgraded, send it back to the MRC and they'll upgrade it. And that's what they use to get in there and change the software to today's standards. So we have those capabilities. And then in the back, again, very simple, plug in your power supply in here. And then we have here 2 jacks here, one going to the main line and one for a program track. And I'll go into programming track for a second. A program track is something that I do recommend for you to set up. And all you need is a straight strip of track, lay it down. It's like a test track. But years ago, when you had an old DCC system, that was the way you did your programming. Today, with the new DCC systems, most brands, you can program on the main and program on the main track. But the program track still serves a good purpose. If I get a new locomotive, or I have a locomotive where I've taken the body off the shell and I've been working on it, I put it on a program track and just check it. Now, a program track you can't run because it doesn't have that much power. The purpose of the program track, very little power, so that it will protect the locomotive should I have had the body shell off and done something wrong. It protects me from burning it out. But I can do testing it to make sure it is okay before I put it back on the main track. So a programming track is a nice little feature to have and use when you're running DCC. And it does protect the decoders. Another thing with Prodigy Advanced Squared Unit, it has a switch here for cabs 1 to 8 or up to, I think it's 70 cabs this thing can run. But if you go to the 1 to 8 switch, one of the nice things about 1 to 8 is what I'm doing is I don't have to pull through all these different cabs. I can only pull for 8 cabs because I know it's 1 to 8. That means my information is getting to my locomotive faster. Now I'm talking thousandths of a second, but still, if you look at some DCC systems, there's a little bit of a lag from the time I turn the dial to the power on the train changing. So with this system's very responsive and very quick. So that's one of the other reasons I like this unit. And it is 3.5 amps, and it gives you a lot of power. I could run with 3.5 amps, 10 locomotives, 7 locomotives, depending on the locomotive. Locomotive's power varies between how old it is, how new it is, and how big it is, etc. But I can do a lot. I have a lot of power in this unit. So that's the console. And I'm going to take the handheld here and kind of go over the handheld a little bit with you. One of the things that all the DCC systems have, including the Tech 6, is a 3-year warranty. And it's great protection for you guys. If you buy an MRC system, you know you got 3 years of pretty much MRCs covering the problems for you. I will say that the other brands, the quality is very good, in whether it's an NCE or Digifax, the systems are very good too. But this one has a 3-year warranty, which I think is something that can be important for you.
And Frank, you're also giving out your personal cell phone number for any issue?
You got it. You got it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And guess what? I got a big sign on it. It says "Gone Fishing."
Yeah. Retired.
Retired. That's right. And the other thing I'm going to mention too is, besides the 3-year warranty, customer service. I have to say, in this industry, I mentioned this the other night, I think the customer service provided by the industry, not just by MRC, but by the industry, is that it's very good.
Yeah.
If you have a problem on any issue, or you have a question about a locomotive or a decoder or something, call the manufacturer or email them. Better you'd email them. Leave Ken alone. But you can go to the manufacturer and ask them, and I think in many cases they'll get back to you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Excuse me, just 1 second.
You're absolutely right, Frank. And it's funny, we did a seminar with Frank and some other DCC manufacturers 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Right.
And between all of them, there is so much information out there. All of them have help hotlines, emails to get in touch with them, videos. So the information now is a lot more robust and out there, and all these companies are more than willing to help everyone. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, even if you go to a show, you'll see it with the most of the guys in the industry. They're really there to help you, and they want to help you, which is really nice. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to kind of go over was how simple are some of the features on the Prodigy Advanced Squared.
Yeah.
We have a button here. When I talked about this before, we have a routing button up here at the top. I'm going to start working up here, and a routing button is allowing me to
lift it up and show.
Sure, guys. I keep forgetting. Okay.
It's okay.
The route button allows me to build that route of tracks to all flip the switch simultaneously, and I'll be able to do that with building a route, naming it, and giving it an address, and then I hit the route button, and I'll come up and I'll put in the route I want, and bang, all the switches are thrown when I hit the enter button. There's another button up here that is an accessory button, and that's where I can use different addresses with the accessory button. Excuse me, guys.
No, take a drink of water.
Sorry,
It's okay. So I'll do a quick recap because I'm getting questions for people who are just signing in. Joe had a good question, just able to log into the virtual view. Do you recommend the Tech 6 for a first timer to DCC? Yes, 100% we do. We just went over that before we were getting into the Prodigy Advanced Squared. But yes, it's a great beginner step to get into DCC and kind of get your feet wet. So yeah, good question.
And because of the price, years ago I would say, you better be sure what you're buying, because these systems are hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
But with the Prodigy, with the Tech 6, you're getting started with a very inexpensive system. And if you want to grow, I would then recommend, if you really stay with the hobby, then you get into a Prodigy system. when you're ready. We do have a cheaper version of the Prodigy also, which is an Express, which is I don't know your price, Ken, but I would say it's under $200. So it's a little bit of a jump, but it's not too terrible.
Yeah, MRC has some great price points, and they got something for everyone. So if you're a beginner, you got the Tech 6, they got the Prodigy Express, they got the Prodigy
Elite, we have an 8 amp unit.
Yeah, so they got a little something for everyone in all categories. It's just not a one size fits all. There's multiple different units. And actually, Mike did have a question, and Frank, you're gonna empty out some of our customers' bank accounts on the comments here. So that's a funny comment, Francis. But Mike had a question. The Prodigy Advanced Squared and the Express. If you could talk about quickly, I know it wasn't in there, but if you could talk about the differences, yeah.
Okay, sure. That's no problem. We're gonna get off script a little bit, and I'll explain some of the differences. The Prodigy Square, Prodigy Express is a little bit more than half. It's less than half. Well, it's about $229 retail, and this unit's about $450. So there's a couple $100 difference between the two units. The Prodigy Express is a 1.5 amp unit. This is 3.5 amps. 1.5 amps is plenty of power for 3-4 locomotives, 5 locomotives, pushing it, but in that range. The Prodigy Express handheld is a little bit different than this handheld. This one has a fast clock, which I was going to get to, which allows me to speed up time, so that if I'm doing, say, a shift of 8 hours and I want to do it in 2, or I want to be on schedule to get down to the other end of my layout, and I want to speed up time to get there, make it more prototypical, I can do that with this unit. With the Prodigy Express, you don't have that advantage. Both have the 3-year warranty. This had the 3 jacks on the console, which I talked about. The Prodigy Express is 1 jack, like most DCC systems. Other than that, most of the other features, the 28 accessories, accessible, instructions on the back, all the same. Now, if you buy the Prodigy Express, you can also increase the power, and you can buy a Prodigy Advanced handheld, and you get all the features that the Prodigy Advanced had. It costs you more to get there.
Yeah.
You can upgrade, is what I'm getting at. So if you buy the Express, start out, you go, what is a great system? I really like it, but I really wanted that fast clock, or I wanted the route button. Well, you buy this handheld, and you got those features. So the features are in the handheld, not in the Express itself.
Yep. And are there recommendations? So you got 3 amps and an 1.5 amp on size, because there's certain people commenting about, I have a large layout or a small layout. Is there like a specific
no
guideline?
Because if I have a locomotive that's very old, guess what? It's going to pull a lot, takes a lot more power to get it moving. So it's very hard. I'm making up, I'm telling you about 5 to 6, 7 locomotives on this case. That case. You know what? It does vary depending upon the locomotives I have on the track, how old they are, and how heavy they are.
Gotcha.
So it does. And the one thing that happens is if you start seeing problems, you can buy a power booster. You buy an MRC power booster, and it gives you more power. So if you start out with that Express, I'll get you farther ahead than even the Advanced Squared with more power if you buy a power booster. Handheld, you'll have all the features of the Advanced Squared. It'll cost you more in the long run, but it's a good way to get started if you like the hobby.
And that's good, because you could always start off small, and then if you want to advance, it's not like you have to scrap the system and restart all over again. You could always add that booster. So that's a good point. And thank you, Michelle, for asking that question. So appreciate that. Good.
And there's another feature on the Advanced Squared that is not on the Express. In the system button here, I have an ability to use a different way of having the throttle operate. Right now, the throttle, if I'm turning it in one direction, the speed increases. To change direction, I have a direction button. I hit the direction button and the locomotive will change direction. Yard work is different. I can set yard work up here, and when I move the throttle in one direction, the locomotive is going to go in one direction. When I move the throttle in the opposite direction, the locomotive is going to go in the opposite direction. If I'm doing some work, switching work, and I'm trying to do lash some locomotives together, or I'm trying to build a train, I can do that and use the yard work. So I'm moving a little bit one way and a little bit the other way without having to hit the direction button. Another nice thing with many of the systems out there today, not just MRC, is we have a +1 and a -1 button on the units. This will allow me to do fine tuning, fine control, moving in one direction and just trying to just bump up the speed a little bit. Every time I hit one, I'm moving a little bit faster, but I'm not going quickly to get that speed. So it's a great way too. If I'm in the yard and I'm just trying to do a little bit of work, I use my buttons on either side to move the locomotive a little bit faster, a little bit slower, without having to turn the knob and maybe go too fast. There is another button I'm going to just talk about DCC. And I've had people at trade shows say to me, why do you have different, what are the speed steps? Well, we have a button on here for speed steps. The old DCC systems, when they first came out, they had 14 speed steps, and decoders only had 14 speed steps. Now, what does that mean? If the voltage is being put out at 16 volts, every time I moved it one step, I was going about 0.8 of a volt faster if I'm moving up the speed from 0. So every speed, I only had 14 little clicks to go from 0 to top speed. So sometimes there's a little bit of a bumpy, choppy ride getting there. Later, technology improved, NMRA approved some new specs, and we had a 28 speed step ability. And many of the decoders out there have 28 speed steps. By the way, the decoder, even if I have 120, I'm going to go into 128 steps. If the decoder is only set for 28 or 14, that's all you're going to get, no matter what this DCC systems tell you. So there's 28 speed steps. And for me, if I turn this dial, it's about one turn, less than one turn, to go from 0 to 28 speed steps. And that's enough for me. I like 28 speed steps. But there is another setting for 128. And that means that it's a very small change for moving the throttle. But it also takes me about 2 turns of the dial to get from 0 to full. You can just hit a little button here and you change the speed steps, 14, 28, and 128 back to 14 and so on. So you can change how sensitive that throttle is. But for most guys, probably 28 is what you need. That's all you need. So that's what I'm just explaining something. And most systems have those, whatever brand you buy, will have those buttons in your system. So I hope I explained that. And I'm going to kind of wrap up the Prodigy Advanced Squared because I got one more topic, and I think we're going longer than I said it was going to go. So poor Ken's working overtime tonight.
No, it's good. As long as you don't lose your voice, I'm crossing.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry.
It's all right. Just take a drink of water. We don't need you losing your voice on Trainworld TV.
This happens when you get old.
I don't think anybody else would want to come on after you if you start to lose your voice.
Okay, and that's it. I'm alone in this office here, so I'm going to get into another nice feature with Prodigy systems. And whether you have the Express, the Advanced, or the Elite, all of them will do what I'm going to just talk about now. You can download an app. And if you have an iPhone, you're going to download Y-Throttle. If you have an Android, you'll download Engine Driver. And this works for an iPad as well as an iPhone. But when you download that app, you can put it on your phone and you can click on and I just have one setting here where I have, by the way, this is the yard work rough. I'm going to go in one direction, it goes up. And if I go down the other way, it's going to go in the opposite direction. And over here are my function keys. I don't think you can see them too well, but you have function keys. And I can actually set this up so I can have 2 throttles on my handheld. What's really nice is my cell phone is now a handheld. I don't have to go buy another handheld from MRC. Poor Ken lives as a sale, but guess what? You guys can have multiple guys come to your house, download this app. And by the way, the app for Y-Throttle, I know for sure because I have it, is free for the basic unit. So the app is free. So you could even download this tonight if you wanted to, put it on your iPhone, or if you have an Android, get the engine driver, download it, and you can play with it without hooking it up to anything. And you can see what it has. And it's got a lot of nice features. It gives me about 50, 60, 70 feet of range. So I've got plenty of range. And guess what? It's wireless. So I can walk around my layout without having to buy those extension plates, and I can control trains. So if buddies come over, download the app, and guess what? We're running trains together. And it's really a neat tool for your unit. Now, you do have to buy, you weren't going to get away for free. You got to buy a Wi-Fi module from Ken, and this has a jack on it on the bottom, and that jack is going to plug in to my console or my cab unit, plug in there, and it's going to broadcast in your house a Wi-Fi signal. And it's going to, when you go on your iPhone, you don't have to, by the way, to download the app, you don't have to have this device. Just to download the app and play with it, which I'm doing with it tonight. I don't have my Wi-Fi network hooked up. So I'm just playing with this, and I can play with the screen. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not controlling anything, but you can see what it's capable of. But when I buy this module and I plug it into my Prodigy system, I'm broadcasting in my house, not just my signal for my internet, but now a second signal, which says on it, MRC Wi-Fi. I go to my settings on my phone. I click on allowing the phone to pick up the MRC Wi-Fi network. And guess what? With this plugged into my unit, I can operate up to 8 phones on my Prodigy system and have them all work. So it's a pretty neat way to have buddies come over, play with you, operate your layout, and do so with your phones.
That's great.
And it's a neat little tool. And
also for young kids too, that they're so glued to their phones, their iPads, stuff like that. So it gets them where they're using technology that they're used to using and getting into trains, getting into hobbies. So that's a great thing.
Right. And here I just did another setting while you were talking, Ken. And now you can see I have 2 throttles set up. So here again, I got now an ability to run 2 locomotives on my same iPhone. So it's got a lot of really neat features. You can even change your functions from F1 to put in the word bell or a customs number. So you can do a lot of things. Another nice thing with the Y-Throttle that I use, I can put my whole roster of locomotives on there, and I can call them up as I want them.
That's great.
So it's a really neat feature as well. And one of the things I forgot to mention in the Prodigy systems, which here's my handheld, and I'm going to break after this, guys. But so I'll let you guys get out of here. But one of the things that I like about this, it has a recall button. So every locomotive I've just been entering into the system is kind of recorded, and it'll keep the 25 last locomotives I've operated. So what I'm able to do is, instead of, let's say I want to call up a locomotive, I can just click on the recall button and it'll give me the last one, the one before that, and the one before that. So let's say it's 2 down and it's locomotive 6209. I just click on here till I get to 6209, enter, and bang, my locomotive's going. So I don't have to put the number back in to get the next that locomotive running. It's a nice feature. And if you go over 25, guess what? It drops the oldest number that wasn't used and puts the new number in without having to do anything else. So again, and if I forgot something, again, it's right on the back. We're just about done, and I think I'm finished my seminar. My voice is gone, but I hope everybody had enjoyed a little bit of it and learned something from my rambling here tonight.
No, that's great, Frank. And there are a bunch of questions we didn't get to, and I apologize. And thank you, Pierre and Martin, for answering the questions while we're talking. So we appreciate that. And for those who we didn't answer the questions, maybe Frank, when he gets a chance, if you could answer it on a separate occasion. But
send the questions off to MRC, and you can go on our website and you get the address. But send an email out. I'll do my best over the next few days to try to answer some of the questions if I can. And
Frank, do you know the main MRC email?
It's MRC. Yeah, it's MRC support.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, if you could email the support one, because this way you give Frank a break and let his tech team handle it. So, but a lot of great questions. So we appreciate it, Frank, and we appreciate you even giving your own personal email. So. But thank you for that. And, well, I hope you guys got some tips out of this. And Ken, I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. By the way, I got to say something. I worked with his dad for a number of years, and it's a third generation. He's the third generation running Trainworld. And great guys, great team. The Bianco family is a really great team of individuals. And I really enjoyed working with his dad. I can't say anything bad about Ken Jr., but his father and I really had a good time working together. Well, so thank you very much for tonight. Those were kind words, and Frank is a gentleman and a scholar, and he's been a scholar. No, you know a lot about DCC. I mean, you're a titan of the industry for a long time, and we appreciate you coming out of retirement and popping on. And you're doing this for the love, because you have the love and the passion, and you see it when you talk about trains and DCC. So it's really nice. And again, I apologize for the guys we didn't answer the questions, but we'll do our best to get to you guys, and maybe we could have some of the MRC tech guys take a look at this later on. But Frank and I did have something special to you, and it's more Frank. Frank had the idea, and we were all for it. So we're going to go by the honor system tonight, and we want to get someone into DCC, and that was really important for Frank. And that's why he really wanted to be on the show tonight. After we did the seminar 2 weeks ago, he was like, let's just talk about getting people into DCC, something really basic, because last 2 weeks we had a very technical talk about all these decoders, installations, all these like really advanced features. So Frank wanted to really talk about getting into DCCs tonight, and Frank and Trainworld want to give away a Prodigy Advanced Squared. But again, we want to give it to someone who doesn't have DCC. So if you guys out there right now, just comment in the Facebook feed why you want to get into DCC, and we're gonna either give it away tonight or tomorrow if we don't get anything tonight. But we appreciate the honesty on your guys. We're gonna go by the honor system. And yes, Chris, Chris is telling Frank to have some more water. Then thank you for that. But yeah, so if anyone out there is looking to get into DCC, found this seminar helpful, and really is looking to take the next step into trains, just comment on the post why they would want this system, and we're going to raffle it all off. And I think that's a really nice gesture, Frank, that you did. Well, I hope somebody really enjoys it. And again, I really am passionate about the, you know, I wasn't always a believer in DCC when it first started, but as I see the systems getting more and more user-friendly, I've really, you know, changed, and I think it's just got so many advantages today. So I want everybody out there to, you know, take a look at it and
and get involved in the hobby. It's a real fun thing to do. And Ken's got a great load of product there, so he's a great guy to work with.
Thank you. And we're starting to get everyone all the comments now, and it's great to see. And Eric's looking to get into DC, but don't know what system to get. And hopefully you guys kind of relook at this video and get a real basic understanding. You know, if you're looking to, the first step would be the Tech 6, where you can operate standard DC or DCC. Then if you want to get it more into it, there's the Prodigy Express. Then there's the Prodigy Express Squared. So all different kinds of systems. And thank you guys. And we're going to raffle it off tonight, Frank. So are you okay?
Great. Excellent. Go ahead.
While you're on.
All right.
I want to raffle it off to Tina-Steve Rawson, who commented, and they actually want to get their kids involved. So excellent choice. I think that's a nice family gesture, and I think that's really nice. And sorry that we couldn't give these out to everyone. Trust me, Frank and I would love to give it away. So sorry about that, but if Tina-Steve Rawson could just send me a direct message with their personal information, this way we could ship it out to you guys. So just send us a direct message. Don't put your personal information on the feed. Just send me a direct message, or you could email me at orders@trainworld.com. But Frank, awesome seminar. Thank you. We're getting so much great feedback, so we really appreciate it, Frank. And we're going to be putting this video on YouTube so we could send it out in an email so more people get to learn about DCC. And that's what it's all about.
Well, thank you very much, guys. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. And I'll say goodnight to you, everybody.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Bye now.
Bye-bye now.